I want to talk to you a little bit about energy and how our body uses energy, creates energy, where we get it from. As you can see here, energy equals glucose. Now, a lot of people have heard glucose, they just assume that's sugar, and not all sugars are created equal. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about it a little bit here. Glucose, we derive our glucose mostly from carbohydrates, from potatoes, from breads, from tortillas, from carbs. And one very important element to understand is that not all carbs are created equal. A word, kind of a pet peeve of mine that gets thrown around a lot is the word processed foods. Everyone says that like they know what the freak it is, and they don't. I mean, literally less than 10% of the people that talk about processed foods can really tell you what it is. It's just kind of a sexy phrase that people in the diet industry like to use. But processed means pulverized. Who can remember, in history, learning about the Native Americans and grinding up the corn in their little bowls? That essentially is pulverization. Pulverizing it into a fine substance. So now let's think about our flours. Let's think about white flour. Let's think about a grainy, whole grain wheat flour. Okay, so let's picture a little experiment here. We have a little pile, maybe a tablespoon of white flour on a counter. And then we have a pile of whole grain flour on a counter. And that pile, let's just call it a teaspoon. And then we have a dropper bottle of water. And we just slowly add drops of water to these 2 teaspoons, one of white flour and one of whole grain flour. And which one of those flours is the most pulverized, is the most fine? The white flour. And you probably don't even need to see the science experiment to know what's going to happen. In less than a minute, that white flour, once it's properly hydrated, is going to completely flatten out and be mixed with the water and be almost as flat as the counter. Whereas the grainy whole wheat flour, that's going to take some time. There's going to be some processes of it softening out, getting lumpy, and then eventually it'll flatten out. And that is the difference between processed and non-processed. Now, why does that matter? We talked about insulin, and the higher the sugar, the higher the glucose, the higher the insulin secretion. Which is why that in the keto diet or the Atkins diet, it's all built around low insulin secretions because you're not getting a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of sugars. But when we're talking about 2 pieces of bread, let's look at a Wonder Bread, a piece of white bread, and a piece of healthy all wheat whole grain bread. If you look at the calories on the package, you have 120 calories for each slice of bread. And I don't know about you, but in the past that was very confusing to me because I always looked at macros, calories in, calories out, and went, okay, well it's a 120 calorie piece of bread. Why does it matter which one I'm having? It's because of the processed portion of it. The white bread has got that fine flour, which immediately, like within minutes, is in your bloodstream, which creates the highest insulin spike from the pancreas. So there's a larger amount of insulin present in the bloodstream from a Wonder white piece of bread than there is from a whole grain piece of bread. Hopefully that makes some sense to y'all. You really, when you're trying to lose weight, you cannot afford to have these high insulin spikes. So that's where processed food comes in. Pay attention to that. You also have some fun asking people the question, what does processed mean? I bet you then no one ever really tells you the truth. So you got glucose, comes from carbs. Sucrose, I say table sugar. Now table sugar it's interesting. It's actually half glucose and half fructose. So let me skip ahead. Let's talk about fructose. Fructose is primarily found in fruit and high fructose corn syrup. Most people don't realize that high fructose corn syrup was invented because sugar was expensive. To make high fructose corn syrup is 1%. So it's 100 times cheaper than sugar is. That's why we see high fructose corn syrup in just about everything. It's because we're trying to make food for the cheapest price possible. High fructose, bad. Sugar, not as bad. As you can see, like I said, you have half sucrose has fructose. But let's stay on fructose for a second. One of the things I learned from this book and in my journey is that you want to lose weight, and this might catch a lot of you by surprise here, but I'm going to say it unapologetically, do not eat fruit, okay? Fructose is useless in the body. It cannot be converted into energy. Mind you, we're consuming sugar, we're consuming carbs for energy. Fructose, useless for energy. What happens is it actually collects down in the liver, and the liver's doing important things like processing glucose for energy. But because fructose cannot be used for energy, it collects in the liver and it gets deposited as fat. Enter fatty liver syndrome. And the liver is the most important metabolism organ in the body. It's kind of like a sponge when you're cleaning dishes. And how many of you have cleaned dishes with a dirty sponge? It doesn't really work, does it? You got to rinse out the sponge, you got to clean the pores out, and then it will actually do its job. Well, that's the problem with a lot of our livers. Most everyone that is overweight has fatty liver. They call it fatty liver syndrome. Okay, well, fatty belly syndrome, fatty back syndrome. I don't know what a syndrome is then, but regardless, if you're overweight, chances are you have a fatty liver. And we've got to get that cleared out because it's actually partially responsible for your slow metabolism. Trying to lose weight? Do not eat fruit. Isn't it interesting? We go back to the whole caveman mentality where they didn't have pantries, they didn't have fridges, they didn't eat 3 meals and 2 snacks a day. Well, I live in South Carolina. And if you live in South Carolina as a native person, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, you get to eat peaches every once in a while. Those of you that know peach season, it's probably about 6, maybe 8 weeks. So once a year, I get to eat peaches for a couple months at the most, and then I can't eat them again for 10 more months. Well, now we have airplanes that can fly a kiwi from anywhere on the tropics to here, and you can eat a kiwi 12 months out of the year. That's not the way we're engineered. We're engineered to eat fruit in moderation or in its season. That's the way God intended it, right? We're not supposed to be eating fruit all day. So this whole notion of an apple a day keeps the doctor away. No, it's not true. I mean, fruit does have antioxidant properties, but so if you can get healthier from eating a fruit, you can actually also get fatty liver and become fat and have your whole processes in your body slow down. So yes, gaining health here with an antioxidant and losing health here with fatty liver. Pick your poison. Principle is fruit in moderation. This book that I read, that I keep referring to, it went through every diet known to man. And it talks about what diets work, which basically most diets work for a period of time, how long they work, and when they're going to stop working and what's going to happen when they stop working. Number one, most popular diet in the world, macros. Calories in, calories out. Most people don't realize it was actually the Coca-Cola industry that taught us about calories in, calories out. It was kind of a sinister lesson they taught us because they were trying to sell us Diet Coke. And so they explained to us this whole mathematical formula on how we gain weight and how we lose weight so that we could justify, oh, but it's fine, you can just buy a Diet Coke. Well, I'm gonna drop some very interesting knowledge on you right now. They hooked 2 people up to a blood meter, and they were measuring the amount of insulin in these 2 subjects' blood. And at the same time, one of them drank a Diet Coke and one of them drank a regular Coke. So you got 150 calories here, you got 0 calories here. And you're watching this chart, kind of the insulin meter in the blood, and the insulin spike in both subjects was identical. The same peak for a 0 calorie drink and for a 150 calorie drink. Isn't that interesting? But when we think about the common sense of it, there is no organ within our body that says, oh, no, that was 0 calories. Don't secrete any insulin. There's no process in the body that determines that. That's a later process. That's 30 minutes, that's an hour later where your body goes, wait a second, that didn't have any calories in it. At the end of the day, it's still your brain that's telling your pancreas, oh, we got sweetness, send the insulin in to go get the sugar. So, what does that mean? Okay, one still had 0 calories. We're not going to gain weight on it, right? Well, if you can remember from segment 2, we talked about ghrelin, the hormone secreted by the walls of your stomach. Well, what happens, we also talked about satiety from leptin, that reward hormone that says, so both these people, they drank a Diet Coke and a Coke, and they both got satiety. They both got that great refreshment, that satisfaction. Well, the person that drank the Coke remains satisfied. 30 minutes later, after the person that drank the Diet Coke drank it, their brain basically triggers a response from the stomach that says, wait a second, you tricked me. There was no sugar in that. There was no glucose in that. And so it secretes ghrelin, your hunger hormone. So the person who drank the Diet Coke is having to fight ghrelin and hunger cravings, whereas the person who drank the Coke, they're still satisfied. Kind of a dark truth there. That was when I read that, it was actually the last Diet Coke that I ever drank. Now, when I do drink a Coke, which is not very often, it's a regular Coke. So back to macros in, calories out. The way that diet works is, say you've been eating 3,000 calories a day, and we want to lose some weight now. So we go down to 2,000 calories a day, maybe do some exercise as well. Is it going to work? Yeah, for a little while it will. We're going to lose a few pounds, but eventually you're going to stop. And I say eventually, it's not going to take very long. Within a month, maybe even less, that 2,000 calories is not going to get you there anymore. Because the brain's number one function is survival. It's constantly trying to keep you alive. It's its number one instinct. And so when we're in a calorie deficit and we're losing weight, we're losing fat, we're losing our storage. This is our storage. This is meant to protect us when we're wandering in the desert for 14 days with no food. So as our bodies are chewing up that fat and using that stored fuel, it's basically trying to achieve what's called homeostasis, the normal. So it's going to shoot out hormones and cravings and all kinds of things to get you to give it what it needs. And when you do not give it what it needs, it's going to slow the body down. Most of us here have phones, right? And I don't know about you, but when my phone gets below 15%, it automatically goes into battery saver mode. Well, during battery saver mode on your phone, what it does is the process of your phone slows down. Your processing speed slows down. If you have 20 apps going on in the background, it's not going to run all 20 apps in the background. It's basically going to conserve energy and slow the function of the phone down. Well, the same thing happens. Our brains are brilliant, and they slow our bodies down. The way it does it is it actually will lower our body temperature 0.5 degree, which actually it matters. It's going to slow our heart rate. Our blood-heart volume, our BHV, is going to drop down to 40% of what it's supposed to hold. So there's going to be 40% of the amount of blood in your heart is normal because your body's going into battery saver mode. What that means is pre-diet, I was burning 2,500 calories a day just with my normal lifestyle. Well, it's going to slow that to 1,500 approximately. So suddenly that 2,000 calorie diet that I've lowered to doesn't work anymore because now my body's in battery saver mode. Now I've got to cut down to 1,200 calories. And then that's going to work for a little while. And then your brain's going to slow your heart, your body down, and you're going to have to drop to 800 calories and 500 calories. And that's where we see some of these crazy diets, some of these diet doctors prescribe. Oh, just have HCG and do 500 calorie diet, and you're gonna lose all the weight. And yay, it's the HCG that did it. Come on, that's BS. Don't blame the weight loss on the HCG when you're starving at 500 calories a day. So basically, this diet has been completely disproven. And what happens, say you cut down and you lose those 20 pounds, however many pounds you need to lose. Well, as soon as you go back to eating normal again, your brain, survival, homeostasis, it is going to grab everything that it can, throw it right back into fat cells, and you're gonna gain it all right back. Which is why when I lost all that weight, there was a lot of trolls, a lot of haters online that said, oh, easy off, easy on. He's gonna gain it all right back. And you know what? I wasn't mad at him because I'd read the book, I'd studied, I'd learned. Everyone gains the weight back. It's totally reasonable to say that. They should have been right. But the reason they weren't right is because I learned the right way to do it, which we're gonna get to. But before, I wanna talk about the most popular diet in the world right now, keto. And full disclosure, I am a keto hater. I own ketostinks.com. It's gonna be worth a lot of money someday because I tried it for 4 weeks. And guess what? I lost a bunch of weight. And I felt like I wanted to shoot myself in the face. It was horrible. I had no energy. I had headaches. It wasn't even that keto flu garbage they talk about. This lasted. My workouts, because I was in this contest, I was trying to win $50,000. I was committed. Everything took a backseat. My family took a backseat. My business took a backseat. It was all about my transformation. So my workouts went from 1 hour and 15 minutes to 2.5, 3 hours. Because every set I did on whatever set I did, I needed 5 minutes rest just to be able to do another set. I had no energy. I felt like crap. And it's the same thing. Keto, yes, can you lose weight for it? The whole idea behind keto was for people that needed to lose a bunch of weight before surgery. Well, yeah, you need to do that. Keto's gonna get you there for a couple weeks, a month. But it's not sustainable. It's not for life. As soon as you start eating carbs again, as soon as you start not being a freak when you're at a restaurant with all your friends, your body's going to grab all of it and put it right back into fat cells. Again, it's not gonna work long term. It's not gonna do it. There's a whole nother list of diets it went through and explained why it works, when it's gonna stop working. Principle is the only thing that does not stop working is going back, pushing a reset button, and eating the way our bodies are designed to eat. And it's actually large meals through a small period of time throughout the day, and then no meals whatsoever through the rest of the meals, for the rest of the day. We talked about in segment 2 that eating causes inflammation. It does. I didn't just say eating bad, eating causes inflammation. So doesn't it make sense that we should spend a small portion of the day getting inflamed and the rest of the long portion of the day coming down from that inflammation? When the energy we have readily available in our muscles right now, if you can remember, it's called glycogen. Our muscles and our body can only hold so much glycogen, pure raw energy, before it has to start filling up fat to hold those glucose as storage. Well, the glycogen that's readily available in our muscles right now to run, to sprint, to whatever, that is what they refer to as cash in your pocket. Now, if I owe him money, I'm gonna pull cash out of my pocket. If I need to go buy a drink, I'm gonna pull cash out of my pocket. But when I'm out of cash, I gotta pull out my debit card and I gotta go into my checking account. And that is the way our bodies every day are supposed to use energy. Part of the day we're supposed to be using cash, and then when we're out of cash, we're supposed to go into the checking account. Enter the problem of eating small meals throughout the day. I gotta go back to it. If you're eating small meals throughout the day, you constantly are putting cash in your pocket, and you're never using your debit card, AKA fat. The way we're supposed to daily use our energy is through a portion of the day we're using glycogen, and another portion of the day, glycogen, AKA cash, and the other portion of the day we're using our checking account, AKA our fat. Intermittent fasting is the way our bodies are designed to work. It's the way our bodies are to heal from inflammation. Another interesting fact about digestion, as I mentioned, it slows down all the processes of the body. You have organs like your kidneys, your liver, that they do multiple jobs. But when there's food in your system and there's digestion happening, they all stop their other processes and they marry to digest the food and facilitate the nutrients. When we eat small meals throughout the day, we're constantly digesting, and we're not healing the body, we're not detoxing, we're not purifying the blood. There's so many processes that aren't happening, and the number one process is called cell autophagy. Autophagy is the recycling of cells. The body regenerates, every cell in the body regenerates in approximately 9 days. Now that's approximate. Your cells are constantly opening up, expelling the dead proteins and bringing on the new particles and proteins and recycling. Well, that cannot happen when digestion is happening. So enter the number one thing you can do for anti-aging is cell autophagy. And the number one way you can get cell autophagy to be quicker, faster, and better is intermittent fasting.